Tourism Talk. I'm Laura Oswald, Director of Marketing at the Paducah Convention and Visitors Bureau. Today, we're celebrating 40 years of the Paducah Symphony Orchestra. Please join us as we take a look back and ahead at our orchestra in residence at the Carson Center. This incredible cultural asset and experience is available right here in Paducah. Today, we have Reece King and Morgan Walker who have joined us. Thank you all for being with me today.
Of course, thanks for having us.
Really excited to talk about the symphony, and certainly some of our viewers may have experienced the symphony in person and others may not, so we want to give them a great introduction today. I will let you all first introduce yourselves and kind of your roles in the symphony and promoting this great asset.
I'm Reece King. I'm the Executive Director of the Symphony. I've been with the Symphony since 1987 as both a player and now in an administrative role.
Awesome.
I'm Morgan Walker. I'm General Manager of the Symphony, and I'm going on about 4 years with the PSO.
Awesome. Tell us, I guess, introducing PSO to the audience. What is the mission of the Symphony?
Well, if you go by our mission statement, it's to promote classical music and make it available to our region through concerts and educational programs and different things like that. But for those that may not have experienced the symphony, they need to come to the Carson Center and hear the orchestra, because it's really a really good orchestra for a regional orchestra, which is, what we mean by regional is that we're a per-service orchestra, meaning that the musicians are not full-time. They drive in here, and some are local and everything. But it's a really, really good orchestra.
Yes.
So.
And I really think that, it brings classical music to life. You can hear it on the radio, you can hear it in a movie, but to see it live, there's such energy.
Yeah.
And to have been a player, that reach of that regional orchestra is amazing. Tell us kind of, where are these musicians coming from? Some are right here in our community.
We do have a few local people that live here, but most of them come in for the weekend when we have a concert weekend. And they come from Louisville, St. Louis, Nashville, and all points in between. Occasionally we get some people a little further away, but Louisville, Nashville, St. Louis really is the bulk of it.
Yes.
So.
And what does that kind of concert weekend look like then, when that orchestra all gets together?
So we start rehearsals at 3 p.m. on Friday afternoon, and a lot of people don't realize that we don't rehearse all the time. So we have 2 rehearsals on Friday, and then the majority of them spend the night unless they're within driving distance. And then we come back on Saturday afternoon for another rehearsal, and then the concert Saturday night. So it's a very quick, hectic weekend, and the phrase that I always use is, I just try to get out of the way at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, because at that point the ball's rolling downhill and it's going to happen.
Yes.
So you just try to get run over.
It up.
Right.
Yes, well, you all are kind of behind the scenes. There is one person out front, Maestro Ponte. Tell us a little bit about him, Morgan, and his role.
He is going to be celebrating his 10th year very soon with the orchestra. He's been with us for quite a while now. He's become really close to our patron base, and he's beloved in this community and extraordinarily talented as well.
And where is he from?
He is from Florida. Italian, but he is from Florida.
Yes, yes. So he's a great character to get to know, and certainly that orchestra out front is just amazing. Let's talk about some of the types of performances that we see throughout a season, and what a typical season looks like for the symphony.
We do primarily classical concerts. We are a symphony orchestra, and we want to promote classical music, like Reece said, but we do also try to do an occasional pops performance, about 1 per season, and we've really tried to hold true to that. We had Stephen Curtis Chapman perform with the orchestra recently, so we mix it up and have different genres for at least one of those performances per year.
I think you had a cinema-related
yeah, we do film scores a lot.
Yes, so I think that is something that helps people relate to how this classical music is part of our lives in so many ways. Well, certainly we want to encourage people to see what's coming up with the symphony. Where can they find more information?
You can head to paducahsymphony.org or follow us on Facebook or Instagram.
Wonderful.
Or all three.
Wonderful. So beyond concerts, what other types of events and programming can be expected from PSO?
We do lots of special events throughout the year, primarily fundraising events. Sort of our signature fundraising event is Paducah Beer Fest. It's a craft beer festival, pretty well established now, and we feature usually at least 30 craft breweries at the festival with representatives from all over the country. And that has turned out to be a really good fundraiser for our organization, and it allows us to reach a broader audience, not necessarily with a performance, but a broader audience from our concert hall audience, and introduce them to the PSO, who we are.
And that festival is held each June, and it's become one of our kind of signature festivals that we're promoting. Everyone loves to travel for food and drink, and craft beer is becoming something that's growing so much in Kentucky. So we love that you all have latched onto that, and I assume that kind of the breweries popping up was some of the impetus for that festival?
Yeah, I think the first year everyone collaborated, and that was an inspiration for sure to bring a festival here.
And the name, of course, draws everyone's attention. Paducah is so catchy.
It is.
Awesome. So in addition to kind of the beer vendors and the tastings in that regard, I think you all have some VIP experiences, and you do offer music.
We do, yeah. We have a main stage outdoors. We try to bring in at least one traveling, touring artist, and then we usually feature some local talent as well. Yeah.
So if locals haven't checked that out, or visitors, we certainly encourage them to make a weekend of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And do Paducah. So awesome. Well, what other types of events? You mentioned educational programming.
Yes.
We do have a lot of educational programming. We do in the fall, every year we do a high school, we call it a high school tour, where we go out and we perform at area high schools for the entire student body, not just for their music students. And then in the springtime, we do an elementary concert, and that's in conjunction with the Carson Center as part of their Class Act series. And then we have our youth and children's choruses and our youth choruses that rehearse all year long, and they both perform with the orchestra at times, but they also do standalone performances as well. We also have summer camp, which occurs every June. So June's a busy month for us. You know, and a lot of times I think people wonder, well, what in the world are they doing at the symphony office, because they only do 7 or 8 concerts a year. You know, we're always planning a fundraiser, or we're planning a camp, or something's going on. So summer camp is in June, and it usually attracts about 150 students, and it's held at McCracken County High School.
What types of experiences does that offer?
You know, they participate in ensembles, so they rehearse and they have a performance at the end of the week, but they also take elective classes, which might be music theory or guitar or composing or whatever. We have faculty that come in from all over the place for this, and you know, even as far away as Los Angeles, we have a film composer coming in. So we're offering for the first time a class in film scoring. Wow. So it's a really good camp.
Yeah, and I think that certainly speaks to your mission of promoting classical music and that next generation of music appreciators and musicians.
Yeah, and you know, most of the general public, when they think of classical music, they think of Beethoven or Mozart or whatever, but there's a lot of classical music in the film arena. And you know, we typically are doing a film concert about once per year or something along those lines, but you know, I think that music parallels opera from 200 years ago, and you know, it was the popular music of the day, and if you were walking down the street, that's what you would hear, somebody playing. You wouldn't hear it on the radio, obviously, but you know, at that time people had their windows open and they were playing the piano or the violin or whatever, and you would hear opera music. Well, these days may not be someone playing it may be a TV, but you know, you're going to hear film scores. And I think that music parallels that. And you know, I think 100 years from now, the best film scores will be like the best opera scores.
Right. I love that. Thinking about how this is part of all of our lives. This is part of our contemporary culture. It's not just Mozart, Beethoven, Bach. And
actually the film composer that I was talking about, he's from this area. He's from Metropolis.
Wow.
So
Wow.
be really neat to have him back.
Yes, it will. Well, great programming, and again, I'm sure people can find more information if they're interested on paducahsymphony.org.
Yes.
Thinking about this being the 40th anniversary of PSO, what are some of the memories as you all have looked back and kind of reflected with patrons, with musicians, with the maestro this year? What are some of those memories looking back on that heritage of 40 years?
I think Reece can speak better to that than I can.
Well, I've been around much longer. We've only had really 2 conductors since I've been with the orchestra. So Jordan Tang was here for 26 years, I think it was. And then, as Morgan said, Raffaele is celebrating 10 years here very soon. So, as a musician, I think back to, we played at the Giton Auditorium for years, up until about 1997. I think the very first concerts were at Paducah Tillman High School, maybe the first 1 or 2, but then we got into Giton very soon after that. And for people that have never been in that space, it was great acoustically. It was not great aesthetically, but it was great acoustically. And then when we left there, we went to Tillman for a while the Carson Center was under construction, and then in 2004, when the Carson Center opened, we moved into the facility we're in now. And it's fantastic. And we're so fortunate to have it. But as I think back over the years, all the different players and the pieces that we played, and there's a lot of fond memories, particularly of Giton.
Yes.
Even though there might have been water in the floor at times and broken windows and things falling off the ceiling and all kinds of things that went on. One of my favorite memories is we were playing William Tell Overture, which, if people don't know what that is, that's the Lone Ranger theme. But there's a lot more to that piece, and most of the time you just hear the Lone Ranger theme when you hear it. But it starts out with a storm scene, and it really sounds like a thunderstorm. And the night we performed it, I've done it a few times, but one of the times we performed it, it was coming a thunderstorm. And it was in Giton, and the curtains have rips in them, and so the lightning was flashing through the auditorium as we were playing it. And from the stage, that was really cool. I don't know if the patrons and the audience could see what I could see, but with that lightning flashing as we were playing, it was perfect.
And I think that thinking back to that, the Carson Center is obviously an immaculate space, but thinking back to music transcended it all and to make that experience no matter where you were.
Right.
That's really incredible. I love that. Well, looking ahead, now, what are kind of the visions that you all have for PSO in the next 40 years?
We have lots of ideas.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put some of those to action. A little premature to talk about a lot of them right now, but...
Well, one of the things that probably most people don't understand is how far out we have to plan.
Yeah.
Sure.
We've got 2021 pretty much done, and now we're starting to work on 21-22 season. So we work about 2 years ahead. There's lots of reasons for that, because we have to work around the dates for the conductor, the dates for the Carson Center.
Sure.
We have to work around guest artists, so we plan a long way in advance. But we do have a lot of plans in the works that we really can't announce some of them yet, but I think there's going to be some really good things for the community coming.
Yes. And I think, from an outsider's perspective, I think that you all continue to innovate and create really memorable experiences for the audience.
Thank you.
The Stephen Curtis Chapman show that you mentioned, that's a once in a lifetime kind of experience.
Yeah, with an orchestra.
Yes.
It was big.
Yeah.
I think it's important to, when it's appropriate, to feature people or work with people that have a tie to the area.
Yeah.
It's not always appropriate, and not everybody we can do that with, but with Stephen or this film composer I was talking about, there are talented people from this area that are on a national or international level, and we should work with those people if we can.
Yeah, well, we love that you're giving a spotlight to that, and that brings some other opportunities to mind, and you all supporting the Global Youth Concert, helping to get some of our local young orchestra students to the fellow creative city of Incheon, South Korea, to perform.
That was quite an experience for those kids.
Yes.
We were happy to help facilitate that.
I feel like just seeing music truly be that universal language and connector through those children and their experiences, and bringing that now back to Paducah. Who knows? They could be members of the symphony orchestra in 10 years.
Right.
So, of course, that fostering that local connection. But as you all mentioned, you do work with guest artists. How does that play into the season and kind of enhancing what's going on with that standard orchestra performance to performance?
Well, our artistic director makes the majority of our programming decisions and selects our guest artists based on the repertoire he wants to do, or sometimes vice versa. He just really wants to work with an artist and bring them here. But yeah, like Reece said, we plan really far in advance. We have to work around lots of schedules, and we try to bring as much world-class talent as we can to our stage. And we do. We bring 3 or 4 high-profile guest artists per year.
Yes.
To perform with the orchestra.
And these range, I would say, in instrument and focus, certainly.
Definitely. Vocalists, violinists, pianists, wind players.
It's like working a puzzle.
Yes.
All the time.
Are there essential elements to that puzzle within each season that you do look, or is it more kind of just what that season, the opportunities it presents?
The opportunities it presents, for the most part.
That's a lot of it.
Yeah.
It is. I do think that every program should have something for everybody. That's not always possible.
Right.
But we try to make sure that the programming's balanced.
Yes. Well, I would say if some of our viewers have not been to a concert before, what is the best way to experience that? Just come and get a ticket at the Carson Center, reach out.
Yes, our adult tickets start at $21, so very accessible. And we offer student tickets for K through 12 students absolutely free for almost all of our concerts.
Awesome.
College student tickets with a student ID are only $10. And you can call our office or visit paducahsymphony.org for all of that info. But yes, please just come experience a concert, 'cause that's the best way to convince you to come back.
Absolutely. And I mean, being a town of 25,000, we have a symphony orchestra. This is incredible.
Incredibly rare.
Yes.
Yeah.
What, I guess from your perspective on the inside, what value does that bring to our community?
Well, I think, as you said, in a town this size, it's very unusual. To have an orchestra like ours in our with our structure, we would almost always be in at least a town of 75,000, and really probably more of 100,000. So, there's economic value on concert weekends or Paducah or whatever. We're filling up hotel rooms, we're filling seats in restaurants, so there is we definitely drive some economic activity, there's no doubt. But I think just the artistic value that it brings, because the phrase that I use is, can you imagine Paducah without the symphony? And really nobody can, because we've been here 40 years. But it's almost a miracle that we've been here 40 years because of the size of the town.
Right. We do have to continue to support that and to see it grow and see it continue. Yes. What trends, I guess, are you seeing in the world of symphony orchestras?
Wow.
Well, there are all kinds of trends.
Yes.
I would say a big one right now, which we are playing with ourselves and trying to implement, is sort of breaking classical music down into a more casual setting with chamber music primarily. And we are talking about trying to implement some of that here in Paducah, which we're really excited about. Some other trends, working with women composers, which we've been featuring a lot of female composers lately. We've kind of just started doing that, which is great. Raffaele's really excited about that. What else?
One of the things that we see, and we see some of it in our own data, but nationally, this is definitely a trend where people are not necessarily buying season tickets, but they're buying single tickets more. And our single tickets have gone up, but we're not an orchestra that has 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 concerts.
Right.
So actually, our season ticket is not any more expensive than some single tickets to
Right.
bigger orchestras. So it really makes more sense for people to consider buying season tickets with us. But we are seeing an uptick in singles. And I think that's just a scheduling thing, and it's people are really busy,
Right.
and they may not want to commit, and they probably think season tickets are very expensive, and a lot of places they are, but that's not necessarily the case with us.
Yeah.
So
We offer 50% off for new subscribers.
That's great.
So-
I could see where, a single performance might pique your interest, but yeah, I think certainly encouraging people to look at that option is a great thing for our locals and those throughout the region, really. I'm sure that your patron base reaches much farther than McCracken County. What
Definitely
does
does.
that look like?
We have, I don't know the exact percentage, but we have a large number of people that come from outside of McCracken County. We have
Yes.
people that drive over an hour every month to come to our concerts, sort of situated actually between here in Nashville or between here in St.
Yes.
Louis, and it's too much of a hassle to go to those places and a lot more expensive, so they prefer to come here.
Yeah, well, we love talking about the value
Yeah.
and the ease of experiencing Paducah. So
Definitely.
this is certainly a great example of that.
And even though it's unusual to have a symphony orchestra in a town this size, it's equally as unusual to have a facility like the Carson Center
Yeah.
in a town this size. And I would put that facility on even par with almost anything that they could go to in a St. Louis or a Nashville or maybe even better. Acoustically, it's great. Aesthetically, it's great. So people can get a really good value and be in a world-class hall.
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, you all are kind of behind the scenes making it all happen. From your view, what is something that might surprise our viewers to know about what goes into this whole process of presenting the PSO season and events?
Oh, wow.
That's a good question. I'm sure there are lots of things, but it's
Yes.
hard to...
Well, one of the things that I would say that people just really never seem to realize is they just think music appears on the stands and musicians just appear on the stage and it all happens. And, we have a librarian who is my wife who, orders all the music. A lot of times the music is not in our library, and in fact, a lot of the music we play is not available. You can't purchase it. It has to be rented. And so you have to get those requests in months and months in advance or you won't get it. So one of the first things that happens after the season is kind of buttoned up and we know what we're playing is she has to get all the requests in for the rentals for the next year. And then as that music arrives, it has to be what we call bowed for the string section, and that's the principals, which is the lead player in each section, does the bowing, but then she has to transfer all of it. And then because our musicians are not meeting every day, we have to get the music to them. So there's this entire logistical process that's hours and hours and hours, and people don't realize that happens.
Right.
They just think it's just there.
Right.
So.
That's a great insight.
And I would say, actually, surprisingly, a big misconception is that some or all of our musicians are volunteer. They do it because they want to, and I'm sure they do want to, but they are paid professionals.
Yes. And I think that shows that we see the value of their talent on that stage and your talent.
Well, I don't play anymore. I stopped playing a couple years
He's
ago
very talented.
when I took this position. But I always use the analogy of the professional golfer. How many professional golfers play golf on their day off? Probably not anybody, because it's their work, and this is these people's work, and it's what they do. Now, some of them have day jobs, and some of them are teachers, but many of them are just what we call gigging musicians, and they either teach private lessons and play in orchestras like Paducah and other regional orchestras, and that's how they make their living. So it is work for them, and people always used to look at me funny, and I even made this comment the other day. I was getting ready to walk on stage to do something, and I said, I got to go to work. And people look at you funny because you use the word play. So they think it's play, and it is enjoyable. And when you play an instrument, if you're a musician, but it is also work, So that we have to understand that that's what they do for a living.
Yes, and we're greatly benefiting from that talent. I love that you come from that side of it and are able to bring that expertise to the administrative role now. What a great team. Thank you all so much for being with us. Before we sign off, is there anything else that you would like to share about the symphony or anything we've forgotten to touch upon today?
Come and see us.
Yeah, please do.
Great. Well, mark your calendars for Paducah. Check out paducahsymphony.org to see all of those upcoming events, and be sure to experience and support our incredible local, regional symphony orchestra. Also, visit paducah.travel to find out more about the cultural experiences, Paducah Symphony Orchestra, the Carson Center, and so many more that you can have here in Paducah. Thank you for watching Tourism Talk. We will see you next time.
1, 2, 1, 2, go. Hello, ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Hello, ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da.